We got a new thermal from DNT. This is the Hydra 225R. One of the coolest things about it though are these new mounts from DNT. So I can run a thermal with an offset red dot. So we're gonna do some offhand shooting. This has a 3-12 zoom. So I've only got it at 3 zoom right now. We're gonna shoot at the far target and then I'm gonna switch to red dot for the close one and see how well that transitions. Today we have another thermal optic from DNT, that's Day Night Technologies. And I mean, this is the third optic that I have reviewed from these guys. The second one that's a thermal. There's some pretty cool new things about this one. In a lot of ways, it does the same thing this one does. I mean, if you look at it, the buttons are the same. The design is very similar. I do have some extra stuff on here. The battery actually goes this way instead of this way, which I think is good for reliability when it comes to recoil. EOTech figured that out a long time ago. But one of the coolest things about this new setup is the mount. You see, it comes with their normal mount here, like I used on the last thermal optic. But it also, they sent me a bunch of new mounts, which to be quite honest, took me a while to figure out. I think they need to include some instructions with these mounts. But the thermal is on a QD now, and I have an offset red dot. So I took this one out and shot it during the day, which I've never shot thermal in the day. I've always used it at night because thermal can see at night. Kind of like night vision, but also totally different. But it also works just as well during the day because it sees differences in thermal heat signatures. And there were some interesting things about shooting it during the day, but also it is nice to have a regular optic at the same time. This is the Hydra HS225R from DNT. And thermal, I mean, a lot of the things I'm going to say in this video, I kind of said in the last thermal video. It's like magic. It's absolutely incredible. In a similar way to night vision that, you can see in the dark. But also, like I said, this time I shot it during the day. I did take it out and use it as a handheld binocular at night. Did that for a few nights before I went out and even put the thing on the gun and shot it. And that, I think that thermal is the coolest at night because normally you can't see at night. But you use a thermal and you can. Because again, what it detects, it's not like night vision where it is amplifying the ambient light. What it is it's seeing the differences in heat signatures between different objects, backgrounds, foregrounds, mountains, houses, animals, people, whatever. And so it's really good for hunting. It could also be very good for certain kinds of defensive purposes. Again, why I think these new mounts are kind of a game changer is if you are using it for defensive purposes. So this is a 3-12x digital zoom optic. Now it does have an ocular and you can adjust and focus your lenses just like any other optic, like an LPVO here. But as you see, with my LPVO setup, I like to have an offset red dot as well. I did just take the dot off of this one. I'm always changing out optics being on this YouTube channel. It's one of the interesting things about having to do videos on different optics all the time. But sometimes when you're stuck with a 3-12 zoom and a digital thermal optic, sometimes you want to be able to see things not through thermal and still be able to take shots. Sometimes, say you're taking a far shot with the thermal, 3, 6, 12x zoom, whatever it is, well, maybe you need to engage an up-close target. Having an offset red dot is fantastic for that. It's the same idea as with an LPVO. You've got it turned up to a higher magnification to, engage targets at a longer range. Well, if you want to get something up close, you just cant your rifle over and you've got a 1x optic. That is freaking sweet, and it's kind of a game changer. And it's kind of, well, it is why I took this out to shoot it during the day this time instead of at night. Have you ever had your identity stolen, been the victim of a fraud, been hacked, scammed, or doxxed? Well, then this video's sponsor is for you, and this video's sponsor is Aura. Aura has been the longest running sponsor on this channel, and for good reason. I use it myself. You see, data brokers are out there collecting and selling your personal information to, well, to scammers and spammers, and they're making billions of dollars a year doing it off of your personal data and information. How do you feel about that? I don't really like it. My information is mine. Your information is yours. Well, Aura puts a stop to that. They go online and they find any of the data brokers that are selling your information. They submit professional opt-out requests on your behalf, and then you don't get scams. You don't get spam anymore. It's kind of wonderful, to be honest. You could try it out absolutely free for 2 weeks at my link, aura.com/sawtoothtactical. What do you get? Well, within that 2 weeks, they scrub your information off the internet. But if you want to keep it for longer, you get all of these things with it as well for just $12 a month. You get alerts if your personal info is found on the dark web, real-time fraud alerts for credit and banking, 24/7 fraud monitoring, VPN, antivirus, password manager. You get US support around the clock, and you get a $5 million identity theft insurance. Aura is incredible. All that comes in at just $12 a month. But again, you could try it out absolutely free for 2 weeks, 14 days at aura.com/sawtoothtactical. Thermal is finally affordable, and not just thermal, but quality thermal. The image resolution that you get through this thing and this are absolutely incredible. I have been so impressed with these DNT thermals. Now, to be quite honest, I don't have a whole lot of experience with other thermals, but you can literally see it like the Predator. And they have different color palettes. They have, black hot, white hot, and then the different colored ones that are literally like the Predator. I find that depending on the lighting conditions or the temperature conditions that I'm using them in, I generally like white hot or black hot the best. But what is also incredible now is that you could set up a full optical system with this thermal with their new mounts. Now, it is an interesting system, and I did have to kind of figure it out. But where this mount would normally go on the rail on the bottom of this, you actually mount a pick rail. And you see those screws that I have in there? Well, that's so that it mounts back in the same place every time, because what this thing is basically mounts to a pick rail on top and on the bottom. And I think I did this right, because it seems to be the only way that it goes together to set things up the way that I would want them to. And then this part is an offset red dot mount, and it is set up for the RMR footprint. Luckily, I have a ton of RMR footprint pistol red dots. So I put the Cyelee one that's an enclosed emitter dot. I actually like this one quite a bit. And it works great. I was a little bit worried that, it might block my shells from ejecting. Had no issues there. And so, as you can see there, well, I can QD the thermal right off and put it right back on very easily. Totally solid. This QD mount you can adjust. Although once your RMR mount is on, you can't really get to that adjustment anymore. So you do want to figure that out before you put it all together. And so those little screws I had in the pick rail on the bottom of the thermal itself are so that you put it back on the same slot every time. That way you maintain your zero. Now this thing is extremely easy to use, and I really like the way the buttons are set up. You have a power button, you have a zoom button, you have a menu button, and you have a record button. The menu button will change your color palettes while you're using it when you're not in any of the menus. Long press it and you enter the menu system, and then you can use that for zeroing, for a number of other things that I did kind of go over in my last thermal video with this one. But when you're not in that menu, it changes your color palette. Zoom cycles through them. So 3x, 6, 9, 12x, then back to 3. Hit this to record, hit it again to stop. And then when you're in your menu, and I'm not going to go too detailed into it, there are a lot of things to choose from. You have ballistic calculators. You just have a lot to choose from. Look it up if there's something you're interested in, because it would take me forever to mention all the things that this can do. But by long pressing that, you go into your menu, and then you use these buttons to, scroll through things. Zeroing it is really quick and easy, which is kind of sweet. So you take a shot at your target, and then you freeze the frame with your reticle right over where your point of aim initially was. And wherever your bullet lands, like today when I went to zero it, my shot was way over here. So all I had to do was adjust that axis over and then save it, and it brings my reticle to where my point of impact and my point of aim is in the same place. And then it's ready to go. I literally zeroed this in 3 shots today. You can zero it in 1 if you're really good at it. It was a little bit hard for me to see my impacts today. I found that was easier at night. Shit. There we go. Okay. So what we're going to do here is simulate if you were, shooting precision at a far target, but then you had to engage a close-up target with the offset red dot still in the tripod. Let's see how it goes. We're going to record first person at the same time. The more I use thermal, the more I learn about it, which is really interesting. So, like with night vision, you just see what's in the dark. With thermal, that is also true, but it can also be used during the day. It doesn't care about light. It only cares about heat. And so I wanted to try it during the day, especially with the offset red dot, see how it would be to transition from farther targets to closer up ones, and all of that. But I also, the last time I went out and shot thermal, was at nighttime, but it was in the summer with this DNT thermal. And I could see my steel targets really, really well. I believe that's because, well, summertime, all the mountains behind the targets and everything had been heating up all day. And I think my targets were probably colder than that. Well, today was cold and windy. And my targets, the longer the day went on, they became less and less visible in the thermal, because I think they just got closer to the ambient temperature of the wind in the background, and the targets just got harder and harder to see, which was interesting. But again, because you could choose your different color palettes, I could go from black hot to white hot, and then sometimes pick them up easy. But all the more reason it's nice to be able to have an offset red dot there for those types of situations. Now, for what this is really meant for is not necessarily shooting at steel targets, but that's how I practice, and so that's what I have to shoot at. But if you were using it for hunting, you could be able to see animals very well, whether at day or in the night. And like I said, I did take this out at night and just use it as a handheld binocular, obviously not walking around my neighborhood with a rifle at night. And took some footage of my daughter and stuff. And it is amazing the detail. It's crystal clear and crisp, and like the differences in heat, especially a person compared to anything else, is very, very obvious. So for what thermal is meant for, this thing is absolutely incredible. Now it is a 3-in-1 unit, so I've been using it as a handheld and also as a standalone, well, with an offset red dot optic, but you can also use it in front of a LPVO as your thermal clip-on. So, which is another great reason for this QD mount here. You see, you could have the LPVO mounted with a thermal in front of it and be able to QD it right off. And there is another like plate here if you don't want to use the offset red dot. There are so many ways to set this up and so many ways to use it. It really is a very, very useful optic setup, and it's not very expensive. That's the crazy thing. Thermal used to be really unavailable for all but the most wealthiest gun owners. That's not really true anymore. The thermal is really interesting. I've only ever shot thermal at night in the dark before, and it is a kind of night vision, but thermal sees thermal signatures, so you can use it during the day and the night, which is why I wanted to bring it out during the day this time to try it with the offset dot as well. Funny thing is, it's cold as hell out here, and my steel targets are getting colder as we shoot, which makes them less and less visible. It's an interesting effect here. Some of the other really cool things about the DNT thermals specifically that I like is that there's an app. Now, yes, of course, there's an app for everything these days, right? Well, this app is actually useful. You download it, and then through Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, it's actually Wi-Fi, not Bluetooth, you transfer your video files off of the thermal onto your computer through that app. The app recognizes the different models that you own. I now have 3 of them on the app. This one, a night vision scope that they sent me first, and then this newest thermal. And because it records, well, then you have all that footage. And so if you hunt with it, well, you can record your kill shots, and then you have them forever. And it even has a recoil activated recording recognition. You can turn that on, and then it won't start recording until you take a shot. And what it does is it started that recording 10 seconds before your shot. It's really, really cool technology. And again, it's actually affordable now. So I don't really see any reason for somebody not to have thermal at this point, if that's a capability that you feel is useful to you. You know, if you live in an area like I do, where there's a lot of great outdoors, and we have things like big cats and bears and stuff like that out there. Well, thermal. Right now is hunting season. A lot of people are hunting elk. Thermal. I mean, it would be incredible for that kind of stuff. And again, if you ever had to defend yourself against 2-legged creatures in the dark, thermal. It's a lot cheaper than night vision. And it picks up human body heat very, very well. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like. Make sure you subscribe and let me know down in the comments. Do you use thermal? Have you used either of the DNT thermals? Because these things are incredibly impressive to me. This channel has afforded me opportunities that I never would have thought I would get before starting this YouTube channel and growing it to where I am now. I'm about, just over 36,000 subscribers. Not big in the grand scheme of things, but I have gotten opportunities to try things like thermal because of that. And it is really cool to see the possibilities that are out there. And, I like to do videos like this so that you guys can see and decide before you buy if this is something that's right for you or not. It is like magic. It's incredible technology. But again, let me know if you've used thermal down in the comments. Let me know what your use case for thermal is and what your favorite thermal device is. From Sawtooth Tactical, well, stay strapped or get clapped.